They resumed their journey. At 4 p.m., the elephants stopped moving. A noise from the jungle was getting closer. They could hear a chorus of human voices accompanied by brass instruments. Then the guide announced, "It's a procession of the Brahmins coming our way. We must not let them see us." They hid behind some trees and were very quiet. The voices came nearer. Fogg could see priests in long robes surrounded by men, women, and children who were singing a terrible and sad chant. Behind them was a cart carrying a statue of a woman with 4 arms and her tongue sticking out. "Kali, the goddess of love and death," whispered the guide. A group of holy men led a beautiful young woman who looked European. She staggered along behind them. She was covered in rich robes, golden jewelry, and gems. Then came another cart, on which was the dead body of a very old man. He was dressed like a king, or as they say in India, a Raja. "This is a sati, a human sacrifice. She will be burned tomorrow with her dead husband, who was the Raja of Bunderkund," said the guide. "But why doesn't she try to escape?" asked Fogg. "She's been drugged. They will take her to the pagoda of Polaji and sacrifice her at dawn." "We will save her," said Fogg.
"Save the woman?"
cried Passepartout.
"But the wager, the steamboat in Calcutta."
"I have 12 hours to spare. We will be on the steamboat to Hong Kong."
"Sir, you are a man of heart,"
admired Passepartout. They waited in the jungle until nighttime. The guide told them about the woman. Her name was Auda. She was an orphan who had received a European education. When she had grown up, the elderly Raja noticed her beauty. She was forced to marry him against her will. When dawn came, the Brahmins gathered around the pyre. Fogg and the guide walked up behind the group. Auda was placed on the top of the pyre with the old Raja's corpse. The Brahmins lit the wood at the bottom of the pyre, and it began to smoke. Then suddenly, the dead Raja stood up. The Brahmins threw themselves upon the ground. They were afraid to even look at their resurrected master. Then the Raja picked up the woman and ran down the smoking pyre through the crowd to Fogg. It wasn't the Raja, but rather Passepartout in the Raja's clothes. They traveled quickly and escaped. As they traveled toward Allahabad, the woman, Auda, was dazed from all the drugs. They reached the train station at Allahabad by 10 o'clock. Once on the train to Calcutta, Auda became conscious. With tears, she thanked the men for rescuing her. She claimed to have a wealthy uncle in Hong Kong. Fogg decided to take her there. The train reached Calcutta at 7 a.m. There were 5 hours until the steamboat Rangoon left for Hong Kong at noon. The 2 days gained between London and Bombay had been lost, but Phileas Fogg had no regrets. As Fogg leapt from the train, he was greeted by several policemen.
"Mr. Phileas Fogg, is this your servant?"
asked the policeman, pointing to Passepartout. "He is."
"Both of you please follow us."
The policemen took them before the judge. The judge told Fogg and Passepartout that they were being charged with the desecration of a native shrine. He also showed them Passepartout's shoes as proof. Fix had used Passepartout's misunderstanding at the pagoda in Bombay as a way to keep Fogg in Calcutta. Since he was Fogg's butler, Fogg was guilty too. The judge sentenced Passepartout to 15 days in prison and Fogg to a week in prison. Fix rubbed his hands with satisfaction, but Fogg was not worried. "I offer bail," he said to the judge.
"You have that right,"
said the judge. "I will pay it at once," said Fogg, pulling the cash from his bankroll.
"This money will be returned to you upon your release from prison,"
said the judge.
"At least give me back my shoes,"
cried Passepartout angrily. Mr. Fix followed them and observed them boarding the steamboat Rangoon. Chapter 4. Clowning Around. The trip from Calcutta to Hong Kong would take them 10 to 12 days. Auda soon became familiar with her protectors and expressed her gratitude for being rescued over and over again. The weather on the final days of the voyage became very bad. The boat moved so slowly that it would reach Hong Kong 20 hours behind schedule. But Phileas Fogg never worried. On the morning of the 6th, land was sighted. Fogg was more than 24 hours behind. The steamboat for Yokohama would be missed. But the captain had some good news for them.
The Carnatic had a broken boiler and could not leave yesterday,
said he.
She'll sail for Yokohama tomorrow at high tide.
By 1 p.m., the passengers of the Rangoon went ashore. Fogg went to search for Auda's uncle, who was a wealthy merchant. He learned that her uncle had made a huge fortune and retired to Holland 2 years ago. Auda was disappointed when she heard the news.
What shall I do now?
She asked. You'll come around the world and back to Europe with us. Then I can take you to Holland, replied Fogg. Fogg sent Passepartout to the Carnatic to buy 3 tickets to Yokohama. Inside the ship's office, he learned that the repairs to the Carnatic had been completed ahead of schedule. The ship would be leaving that evening instead of the following morning.
That's good news for my master,
said Passepartout. Passepartout met Mr. Fix in front of the Carnatic. Fix invited him to a tavern for a drink. They ordered 2 bottles of red wine. When they were drinking, Fix said, Well, I'm going to tell you everything. I am a police detective. I'm following Fogg. He is the bank robber. You must help me.
This is nonsense,
shouted Passepartout.
I could never betray my master.
Well, said Mr. Fix, then act like I've told you nothing. Let's finish the drink. Fix put a drug in Passepartout's drink without being noticed. Angrily, Passepartout took his drink and instantly went to sleep. As Passepartout did not come back by the next morning, Fogg decided that they would have to leave without him. He and Auda traveled to the dock. There they met Mr. Fix and learned that the Carnatic had sailed the night before. Fogg began to wander around the dock, searching for a vessel he could hire. Fogg met Captain Bunsby, who had a small fast ship named the Tankadeur. Bunsby told them that Yokohama was too far. They couldn't get there by the time the boat for San Francisco departed.
But there is another way, said Bunsby. The steamboat for Yokohama to San Francisco starts in Shanghai at 7 p.m. on the 11th. We can make the 800 miles to Shanghai in time to catch that boat.
Fogg made a deal with Bunsby and then told Mr. Fix that he could accompany them at no expense. As the sails of the ship were hoisted, Fogg looked for Passepartout once again. But Passepartout did not show up, as the Tankadeur left for Shanghai. By 7 p.m. on the evening of the 11th, they were only 3 miles outside of Shanghai Harbor. As they neared the port, they saw black smoke rising up from a steamer. It was the American steamer leaving Shanghai for its 22-day voyage to San Francisco. "Signal her," Phileas Fogg said quietly. The captain raised a signal flag and fired a little cannon. Meanwhile, Passepartout rushed to the Carnatic, which was just about to leave after he awoke. He searched the ship for Phileas Fogg and Auda, but failed to find them. He knew he would have nothing once he reached Japan. At dawn on the 13th of November, the Carnatic entered the port of Yokohama. Passepartout went ashore, feeling worried about how he would survive. Passepartout knew he needed to find a way to make money and get out of Japan. After walking around for 2 days,